Hi guys, and welcome back to the Essence of May. So today guys, my main focus will be on a gleaner story about discipline in schools. But before I jump into that topic, I want to address the news that came out. The news that came out in the loop. I saw this in where the police believe they have the hitman for the Tamara Geddes murder. So I want to address it quickly because I did do a video on this and I mentioned that I would be real surprised to see, I would be real surprised if they caught the individual who is responsible for pulling the trigger. Well, as you can see guys, it seems like they have caught the individual. They're probing the matter. They haven't charged the individual as yet, but they believe they have this said person, which might be that they have been given some intelligence, etc. Like I said, it is surprising because this is not the norm in Jamaica. But I remember I did a video a couple months ago. I remember I did the video and I spoke about the era we're living in and how the narratives are being changed. And what is happening that is very good is that the cultural norms are being broken. And once you break those cycles, you break those strongholds. It's like a stronghold on the country. You know, the Bible speaks about stronghold, and strongholds are something that holds you back, that is very hard to shake. So you notice that there's a lot of strongholds, which is on Jamaica, that is being broken. So I'm really happy to see that. And as you can see, and even in that same video that I did, I spoke about changing the narrative and how what used to seem popular and how psychologically you can change people's thinking when you make what is quote unquote popular or quote unquote hip. When you change that around to be something negative and turn the positive thing into something hip, something cool, because you know how the culture of Jamaica is, where people tend to go with the mass, as you know, this bystander effect, where most people, not all, it takes strong individuals to really form their own identity and not follow what the mass is doing. So I'm really surprised to see people are now stepping up. And if you notice, it's just we're living in, as far as I can see, we're living in a different era, guys, with social media, with the whole changing of the negative into the positive, and people now coming to an understanding of how the things, the ideals that we've held on to have been nothing but toxic and has been nothing but detrimental to our development. So it's really amazing. And if you notice, people are now speaking up. We're living in a different time. And I think this is revolutionary. I think this is just, guys, bear in mind, I don't think this is just out of the back of us only. I think this is bigger. And I think this is more on a macro scale, where nothing will be as it was. And I think we're in for even crazier things. We're in for even more extraordinary things happening, because I think we're living in that sort of time and nothing will be the same. Only God knows what really is taking place. I have my theory. I believe it goes down to where we are biblically, where we are spiritually, and we're having these experiences, quote unquote, odd 2020. But I'm really happy to see that, things are taking shape. It seems like the country is moving in a positive way, and it looks bright, it looks positive, guys. So we have to just keep promoting that. But yeah, to God be the glory. So I'm like I said, I was really surprised, but not too surprised, because it's just the era. And if you notice, we're gonna see more of this, where that whole snitch culture is changing. which we need that. I don't know who came up with this whole snitch culture anyway. But we needed to change that whole idea that if you speak out against wrongdoing, you're snitching. So it's good to see people are now starting to wake up. But like I said, that's good. So that's the Tamara Geddes case, as usual. Very unfortunate. It's good to see that justice is being served, but unfortunately, it's so sad that poor Tamara Geddes, none of this will ever bring her back. But of course, it's just about, giving thanks for that, the fact that, accountability is being had where this is concerned. So I'm really happy to hear that. But the news story that I wanted to focus on mainly this morning is a article that I read in the Jamaica Gleaner this morning, and it's about discipline in schools. So I will be reading the article and then I'll do my usual comments, i.e. my 2 cents on the whole matter. So I'll just read the article quickly, guys, and then I'll get into my brief discussion. So guys, I'm going to quickly read the Gleaner story. And before, when I saw this article, I just knew it was a dig at the whole controversy surrounding the ruling on the dreadlocks. But I'll read it quickly. It's quite interesting, guys, and then I'll explore, give my a quick discussion on it, my thoughts, and share some things with you. And it reads, I went to high school for 7 years up to 6th form and gave back 7 years in the classroom, mostly teaching science subjects. One of the things you quickly learn is their drive to be different, to stand out in the crowd. All the schools at which I taught had mandatory uniforms for students, and every day was a struggle over uniform breaches. The girls wanted to wear jewelry and overblouses, and the boys wanted to wear caps. Learning is discipline. In fact, the subject we teach and learn are called disciplines. If you want to analyze the chemical composition of a solid or synthesis, a particular compound, there are rules of procedure to be followed to obtain the right result. Varying the research method or performing procedures in a different order can confound the experiment and lead to a false result. The same is true in social research. Asking a question the wrong way or wearing the wrong color clothes while conducting an interview can lead the respondent to answer other than truthfully, and your research findings or poll results can come out wrong. As I spent my time in the classroom teaching science and mathematics, I also spent my time teaching discipline, including punctuality and deportment. I knew that the students would not do well at chemistry, physics, or biology without good habits of personal discipline. Adolescents want to express themselves, and good schools provide safe spaces for students to do exactly that. Music and dance, debating and drama, once thought to be extracurricular, today are correctly called co-curricular, for they are essential components of a good and rounded educational experience. But so is discipline. The world of work has dress codes, operations manuals, and canons of professional ethics. Learning the discipline of staying within school rules is important preparation for life. Freedom does not mean being able to do anything one wishes. There are always limits to freedom and concomitant responsibilities. Responsibility means doing things one might not like to do, but doing them anyway because they are necessary. Doing the right things are not always the easiest things, but mature people know that they must be done and they do them. The school environment has to foster the right balance between self-expression and conformity. How well a school strikes this balance may be an important determinant for parents when they are choosing schools for their children. Some children and some parents may rebel against the requirement for school uniforms, citing the lack of school uniforms in the United States. But even in the US, schools that do not require uniforms have a standardized dress code of what clothes of what clothing is appropriate for students to wear to school. Not having a school uniform does not mean that not having a school uniform does not mean that anything goes. What might be appropriate for an adult to wear to a party may not be appropriate for a child to wear to school. What children can wear on weekends may not be appropriate for school. The recent case before the Supreme Court, so this is where they get into the whole. I knew this was where this is what they're taking a dig at. But let's get into the final bit of this article where they're now addressing the recent case with the dreadlocks. The recent case before the Supreme Court of Jamaica revolved around whether schools have the right to make enforceable rules about dress and grooming, or whether the constitutional rights around freedom of expression mean that students can wear what they wish to school, including clothing, jewelry, makeup, hair color, and hairstyle. In my view, a judgment against a school would have eroded a main function of schools, the ability to teach students the hard lesson that they cannot always do what they feel to do to express themselves. This modern view that people, including children, must be free to do whatever they feel to do is the very opposite of discipline. In fact, indiscipline in eating, drinking, and sexual matters lead to obesity, drunkenness, and unwanted children. Indiscipline in eating, drinking, and sexual matters leads to obesity, drunkenness, and unwanted children. Indiscipline at the workplace can lead to nepotism and other forms of corruption. If we want a disciplined society, then we must allow our schools to inculcate discipline into our children. Okay, so the end is saying, if we want a disciplined society, then we must allow our schools to inculcate discipline into our children. Must the opposite, poor examination performance, forced rape teen mothers, and the proliferation of criminal gangs be the future of our children? So guys, there you have it. First off, for me, I think the writer missed the mark when he suggests that this is a discipline issue. Now, let me just make this clear. I understand that rules are there for a reason, and I believe in rules and regulation. I do not believe that people should just run amok. I believe that discipline should be instilled in schools, wherever. Not just in schools, but everywhere. Wherever a child is, obviously there needs to be discipline, there needs to be rules. So I'm in agreement with all of that. We need structure, we need the right balance to produce better men and women of tomorrow, to produce healthy, well-rounded individuals. So we need that balance. We need to strike that balance. So don't spare the rod and spoil the child. And as that biblical, the biblical meaning of that is to not allow the child to just have their own way. I don't believe it's about beating the child. It's about commanding that respect in the child and being that parent, whether it be the parent, whomever, and ensuring that the child knows that they need to have that balance and they need to have that respect for you. So that's a separate issue, in my opinion. So this is where I feel like the article tried to make the whole dreadlocks ban a discipline issue. I don't think it's a discipline issue. What I will say though is, of course, the school had their rules in place. So the parents allowing their child to go to that individual school may have been on their part. But again, I'm going back to the bigger issue. I think for many people, it's not about whether or not the Supreme Court is honoring the law and looking at the ways in which the child's constitutional rights was in breach. We understand all of that. I think what most people are looking at is the fact that this should never be a rule in the first place, because of course, dreadlocks is your natural hair. It's not processed. It's not false hair. It's the hair that comes out of your head. So I cannot look at it as a discipline issue. There's no way. It's like, for example, telling me that I cannot come to school with having dark skin. It's just ridiculous because it's my skin color. The same way, telling someone they can't come to school with dreadlocks. It's their natural hair. It's the hair that grows out of their head. And the fact, what's even worse is that a lot of children are allowed to perm their hair to go to school. So Again, these are some of the issues I'm having with it, because for me it's more of a humanitarian right, as individuals, that we're born with something. It's like someone telling you need to have a straighter nose, or someone telling you need to have a smaller head, when you didn't determine that. And yes, I know, of course, people can comb their child's hair, if it's natural and all of that, but if someone choose to allow the child's ear to lock, I don't see a problem with that. I don't think that should be a problem, whether or not that's based on their culture, you name it. I don't think that should be a problem, because not like they're putting an earpiece in the child's ear. It's the child's natural hair. Or hair is naturally kinky, and if we leave our hair, it will naturally lock. And I think that's what the issue is. For me, it's not a discipline issue. I don't think the child having dreadlocks will affect their learning, and this is a problem with our society. We focus on the wrong things. The things we need to focus on, the things we need to address in our society, we're not addressing them. We're looking at things that are trivial, because this is trivial. I would understand if a child wants to go to school in a short skirt, or a child wants to go to school in pink, yellow, blue hair. That's a separate issue. But like I said, for me, a dreadlocks, that is just my opinion, that is something natural. That is something that should be allowed, especially the fact that Jamaica, or government, promotes the society. They promote the whole culture of our Rasta here. Thing that is promoted. So I don't know why there's this discrimination against it. But in so many schools, they don't discriminate against permed hair. We have to strike a balance here. But like I said, and it's just how I look at it. I don't think it's a discipline issue. Now, discipline, on the other hand, is something that should be instilled. And I totally agree that discipline needs to be there, that we need to strike a balance. That in order to produce a certain quality, in order to get the right results, we need to have these things in place. And I don't think it's down just to the school. I think it's down to the village. You know, the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. I think we need to go back to the days where everyone took responsibility for everyone's children. So if you see a child is swearing in the street, your auntie, even if it's not your blood aunt, even if it's not your blood relative, they'll tell you off, or they'll tell you that they're going to tell your parents, or tell you to stop it. And we don't have this these days, because of course, children are so wayward that children will tell even the teacher or whomever, oh, my father will come and shot you if you talk to me this way or that. So we're just living in a crazy time, guys. But again, the dreadlocks issue for me, it has nothing to do with discipline. And yes, the rules are there, and the court is honoring that. So we have to look at that as well, that it's just based on the school rules. So maybe the parent shouldn't have sent their child there in the first place. But again, that cannot be right, because that rule shouldn't be there in the first place. But those are my thoughts. I just think we're focusing on the wrong thing. Maybe our focus needs to be on these schools, these inner city schools that are lacking. Not talking about the traditional high schools or the posh high schools. Or I think the focus need not be on those things. Our focus need to be on these schools that need to get up to par. Maybe when we're talking about discipline, those are the things we need to look at. That's just really how I look at it. So those are my thoughts on it. I just think it's a separate issue, and we need to look at it as a separate issue. It is more to do with a segregation issue. It is more to do with discrimination, which should never be tolerated. Right? And like I said, this is not about Rastafarianism. This is not about religion for me. I'm a Christian woman, but I believe that people have a right to exercise their faith however they choose how to exercise it. And I'm always of the belief that I found my way in Christ. I didn't just get up and become a Christian. I went through my experience. I know what I believe in. It is real for me. I may not believe what a Rasta believes in, or I may not believe what a Muslim believes in. I just live my life in such a way that you can see love through me. That's what I promote. Love, unity. Right? So I just think this issue should never, that rule should never have been in place in the first place. But again, it's a culture we live in. And there's so much things that needs to be fixed. And our focus is not on the right things. Our focus need to be on these schools that need to be brought up to par. That's just what I think. So again, for me, it's not about a Rastafarian issue. It's about the fact that this is naturally us. And we need to accept ourselves for what we are. We accept everything else. We accept perm here. We accept every other year. But we can't accept the natural hair that comes out our head. Whether or not we lock it, whether or not we groom it, however it is. I just think it's a separate issue. And someone having dreadlocks would not, I don't think it hinders their progress in school. And I think that rule needs to be changed. Right? We need to focus on deeper issues in our society. This is why I always talk about the system and how things are not, it's just not right. It's the same way if you go to a certain high schools. Some high schools have been disregarded, and that's an issue, that's a subject I'm going to touch on. Because I didn't go to the traditional high school. And I have a story to give you guys. Shocking. What I experienced and what my peers experienced. And what I've seen happen in these so-called high schools. So this is why I have to highlight every area. I don't just highlight parenting. I don't just highlight environmental factors. I have to put everything. I address everything. The parenting, the culture, the environment, and also the system. Because everything plays a part to the problem that we're having in our society. That's how I look at life. You know what I mean? So I just think the things that we're focusing on are irrelevant. It's irrelevant. And those are things, we're in 2020, those are things we should not be. Those are issues we should not be having in this day and age. But again, guys, those are my thoughts, my 2 cents. But as always, guys, I do thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up, guys. Share, you know the drill. And like I always say, I enjoy having these discussions because none of us know everything. We're all just going along. We're all just trying to figure things out. Only God knows it all. We're all in this together. And these discussions needs to be had. Positive discussions about our society and the way forward. But like I said, things are looking up, guys. And things will get better. I am hopeful. I always say this. When I dead, no call it duppy. So I will continue to lobby for change. And I know change. Change is taking place and it will happen. But we have to also do our part. We have to also know that we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to portray goodness, to portray positivity, to portray the best things and not the negative things out there. So you guys do have yourself a wonderful day. Until next time, Godspeed. Big up.